Hey everyone, it's Catherine. Welcome to my channel. If you are new, I'm so glad to have you here. And basically I am, oh boy, I'm an insider. I have a lot of different friends and I share everything in my life. So I share about being disabled and I share about my movie friends and my knowledge about movies. And I share my cats, and I also share my insights into the beauty industry and YouTube beauty industry, and now I'm sharing my insights into politics. So yeah, I do it all. So anyway, so that's why it's Book of Catherine. It's all of it. So let's get into today's topic, which is celebrities and why they ask you to vote Democrat. Now, I want to make it very clear, I know a lot of celebrities, and it's interesting. I've been shocked because there are a lot actually that are conservative, but you will never hear them say it. Like, they do not talk about it. Like, they do not talk about it because they're not allowed to talk about it. So they are out there, but you'll never hear them say it. So there are some in the media. I think Clint Eastwood is one or whatever, but he's not one of my insiders or whatever. So anyhow, there are those who are like that. It's not all Democrat celebrities, obviously. So but there has been a huge drive, like there has been more so than ever, like this huge thing of like, you know, celebrities and what they now term as the elite. And why are not just celebrities, but why is it that all the late night show hosts and why are all the Tonight Show hosts and like why are all of the basketball stars and why are all the journalists? And because journalists today, they live in Manhattan and they drive in limousines and they, you know, they live a different lifestyle than they used to. They don't go out in the field. They stay up there in their high rise and live on the 42nd floor. So it is, why are these people all, as they say, the elites? One guy, I heard him in an interview, he was asking during a Q&A, he called them the blue checks or something like that, like basically the verified people on Twitter. And he said they all, you know, were like, vote for Hillary, basically. And I've watched some documentaries, and I mean, they were like almost militant about this election. They were saying, for example, like Miley Cyrus on her Instagram page, she like bent over and, you know, looked between her legs and she's like, kiss my, you know, if you don't vote for Hillary, and that sort of thing. And just these strong messages of like Alyssa Milano came out in Georgia or something, and she was like in there driving voters to like go vote Democrat and everything like that. And then now we listen to like Game of Thrones, and then we watch things like Game of Thrones by Doug Weed, and we find out all these things. And remember how heavily that was fact checked when we learned that, you know, Fire and Fury is actually just total lies, and they know it. Like, it's less than, you know, it's even worse than, you know, the National Enquirer, because like the things they're like, oh, Trump didn't know this guy. Like they're saying in it, if you watch at the press briefing at Fire and Fury, you watch at the White House press briefing, and they started to ask her about, you know, Fire and Fury, and she's just like, we all know the book's just not true. Like, it's just a piece of, you know, fantasy. She's like it says Trump didn't know Boehner, and there are pictures of him with him, and you guys even tweeted out pictures of him with Boehner. Like, it's just pure fiction. And I was like, oh God, it's that bad. But apparently when you're a public figure, it's really hard to do libels. So they were able to just go like that. But because Hillary Clinton is not actually president anymore and she doesn't hold a public office, it was different for Doug Weed to do Game of Thrones. And so he had to have everything fact-checked. And so they did 3 months of fact-checking every line of the book. So that's part of the reason we bought it. The other part of the reason we bought it is because he was on both sides of the aisle. He was on mainstream media and he was on Fox News. Both sides had him promoting the book. And so we were like, okay, this will, you know, he's a presidential historian if you don't know him. And I love seeing his interviews because he's so just like, he's so, he has so much knowledge. But he sure gets a kick out of, he seems to predict, he was one of the people that predicted that, that today's president would win. He was one of the people that predicted it. One of the very, very few. He even shocked some of the people on the team. He was like, I think it'll win this way. And they were like, what? It's pretty funny. So I really like him. I really trust him. Because he's just been around for so long. And he's also an insider, though he's a political insider. He has so many people on both sides of the aisle. And he got dirt. He got dirt that nobody else got. And I'm so in awe of him. I want to be him someday. Please. I want to write like him someday. Anyway, so yeah, so we have this drive of celebrities, but what we've learned through Game of Thrones and what we've learned also through the movies that we watch for Insider Movies with the things like The Flaw and things like Inside Job, and especially with The Big Short, you know, that was nominated for Best Picture and which won Best Screenplay that year. I think it might have lost, Big Short might have actually lost to Spotlight. So that's a hard toss-up, but Spotlight is great. So it was a great year. So anyway, what we learned through listening and to all of those things is we learned that there was this huge transfer of wealth, this huge change in wealth distribution. And we've all known that. I mean, I think that's part of the reason that the election went the way that it did, is that there's this big wealth distribution. And no one wants to admit this, but if you go back and you watch, because I've been watching the debates, because Game of Thrones talks so much about, no, not Game of Thrones, but if you watch interviews with the Shattered book people, the journalists who traveled with Hillary Clinton for that book, they talk so much about the 2008 election, and I wasn't watching the race. Actually, where was I in '08? Oh, I was sick. I was so sick that I was too sick to watch, real live things yet. My mind wasn't able to watch that. I was still watching fiction. I think I was still watching Law and Order back then. So, my mind wasn't strong enough. I was so sick that I wasn't watching anything. So I missed it. I completely missed the debates. So they're 08. So I'm trying to remember. So 08 was between Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, or maybe I wasn't sick. Whatever it was, I was out. I was not watching that at all. And I watched it. Basically, I watched those. And I was like, Obama was saying, watch it. Obama was running on the same campaign promises, with the exception of healthcare. With the exception of healthcare, he was running on the same promises as Donald Trump. He was going after the same people with the same promises, talking about faith. I mean, for heaven's sakes, like, he was saying the same things. He had the same message. And I was just like, I don't understand. Like, and basically people were like, oh, well, it didn't work with Obama. Well, then we'll try this guy. Like, they were just like, all right, a politician didn't work. We'll just go with the guy that isn't a politician. Like, we'll try. We've never had the opportunity to try a non-politician. We'll try a non-politician. So we'll go with that. But they were like, hope and change. We'll try that. And I think it all comes down to the wage gap, bottom line. And what we saw with the wage gap is we saw how the wage gap happened, right? And we saw it grow. We saw it grow and we saw how it grew. Now, some facts that you don't know, and you're like, how does this relate to celebrities? Oh, it relates to celebrities. Okay. What you also didn't see is that in that wage gap distribution, what you didn't see is that the Clintons also changed in the 80s, like our welfare our budget spent 18% on welfare. That's how much of our budget went to welfare. 2/3 of our budget now goes to welfare. Like when you do SSI disability and welfare benefits, when you do like just giving out money and supporting people welfare, yeah, 2/3 of our budget now goes to welfare. And that started with the Clintons. That started, and now how did that increase the wage? So let me just tell you how that ends up. You know, that's ballooned. And that's why when you watch Judge Judy and you see person after person sitting there, I mean, I think that's part of what affected it, is that they watched person after person committing welfare fraud over and over, saying, oh, I'm on SSI disability, but they have a business. Or, oh, I broke my back, but I've got a business. And person after person's like underneath a jailhouse, like they just got sent to jail for stealing pipes underneath. Like they did, if you look up and you look at the judges, they just sent 200 judges for censorship because the SSI judges, the Social Security judges, basically, if you get turned down for Social Security benefits, if you apply for Social Security benefits right now, it's basically almost impossible to get turned down for Social Security benefits. And people have figured that out. They figured out how to game the system. So it's impossible. It's impossible to get turned down. So anyone can sign up. They're just like, oh, I hurt my leg, I need full time. And there is just this way that you can do it. And that's why you see so many people on Judge Judy saying like, oh, I own a business, but I'm also receiving these benefits and I'm also being fully supported by the government, but they're doing a cash business. And I think, but here's where it's really shocking, is that we have 100, and I learned these from these statistics from Dick Morris. He went on Fox News and gave these statistics. Did you know that in 2016, 116 million Americans have full-time jobs? 116 million Americans have full-time jobs. How many are on welfare? Oh, I believe it's 114 have full-time jobs. How many have welfare? 106 million are on welfare. So, what in the world does that have to do with celebrities? Well, I'm getting there. This all builds right on top of each other. Now, in those documentaries I gave you, if you noticed, like, and I'm really hoping it was in there, but she said they had a Harvard professor go, she went to talk to a credit card company, and she said, this is why, if you've seen John Oliver, he did this whole piece on car loans, and how the car loan industry is just ripping off, like, the poor people. Like, they're just ripping off the poor people with these horrible loans. Like, it's supposed to be a car loan for $6,000. But by the time she pays it off, it's going to be $22,000. Remember how I said that we had to get that one computer, and by the time we're going to pay it off, it's like a $2,000 computer. It's going to be like $12,000 or something like that. So you have to pay it off early. So what happens is that if you have a low credit score, and we didn't have a low credit score, we just didn't have a lot of money or whatever, but we had to spread out the payments. We were like, we only want a really small payment. If we wanted a really small payment, we were going to have to spread it out. And so they really raised the interest rate, and now we're going to have to pay a ton of money. Well, what happens is she goes in and she does this whole thing to the bank. She does this whole presentation to a bank. And all the guys are talking. She's like, this is what happens when you lend to the poor class, and you're giving these people with low, look at what you're doing to these people who can't afford, with the low credit scores, and look at all these interest rates, and look at all this, and you can't be, like, you're just targeting. Because what they noticed is what the credit card industry is doing. They changed, and they started targeting. Credit card companies now target people with lower credit scores. And everyone in the room was like, we need to stop this. We need to stop this. She's like, look at the debt. It ranks up. Look at what it's doing to our national debt. Look at what it's doing to our economy. And she said the big guy in the back of the room who was quiet through the whole presentation, who was quiet through everything, finally spoke up and just said, we make the most money off of them. Now, I'm going to ask you something. And she said she was just like, holy God. And and then John Oliver's thing came out on car loans. Wall Street makes the most money off the disenfranchised. When our wealth distribution is like this, we are all down here. We are forced to take crappy loans. We're forced to take crappy credit cards. We are forced to rely on Wall Street and big banks, crappy things. Now let me ask you this. When we get jobs that pay more, like we're seeing with trickle-down economics that they all told us over and over, the Democrats, John Oliver and Stephen Colbert, all those jokes for the last how many years? Trickle-down doesn't work. Trickle-down doesn't work. They said, now wages are going up, employment's going up. All right, so all those numbers are going up. So now that we're getting better jobs, we're getting jobs, what happens? Now we don't need those loans anymore. Now we don't need to lean on them anymore. Now we're paying off our debt. Now Wall Street isn't making as much money off of us. Guess who else isn't making as much money off of us? Have you forgotten who the celebrities are? Gone are the days where celebrities used to run around with Greenpeace and stand on the front lines. If you really pay attention, if you watch the war trials you'll see, like Naomi Campbell just had to testify in a war crime trial, a horrible crimes against humanity trial, because she was dining at the table she was dining at his table, and she didn't want anyone to know that. You and I are the kind of people, we go to Vogue. Let's talk, you beauty ladies. You want to go work for Vogue? You want to go work in the tents? You know the story they try to cover up from you? You go work in the tents. If you tell them that you can't have that seat's for somebody else, your ticket says you sit over here, they slap you across the face. And no one bats an eye. Because you're lower class. They're the upper class people. Who did you think Hillary was talking about in that speech that got released? When she was talking to the bankers down there in South America, saying she wants ruling class with open borders. That's just dictators across the world with low wages. When they want open borders, when we have illegal immigration, because we have legal immigration, there are legal ways to get into our country. Illegal immigration keeps our wages down, which benefits big corporations. It ensures that wages for all of us stay low and they don't have to pay us any money, which means we rely on them for credit cards. And the celebrities, they're bougie. That's why when we go to New York, we say on Twitter, recommend a bougie restaurant. Why do you want a bougie restaurant? So that you can live like a celebrity. When you go see a celebrity now, I've seen the videos. When you go see Kylie Jenner, is she sweet to you and give you a hug and signs your autographs? Or does she treat you like you're the crap on her shoes? Whatever made you think celebrities are in your corner? Whatever made you think celebrities don't have stocks that are making money off of you? Whatever made you think that they're not shareholders in Wall Street? Baby, they got money. They ain't no different than Wall Street bankers. They got the rocks. They got the private jets. Look at their bank accounts. Look at their bank accounts. Who in the world said they're fighting for you and cares about your wallet? The only thing they care about your wallet is about getting what's in it. That's why they start the cosmetics lines and then screw you over on the shipping and charge you $45 for one lipstick, and then they send you empty boxes and just go, oops, sorry, and offer no returns. We had celebrities 40 years ago who remembered where they came from and fought for the common man. But eventually, they moved away and they moved to tax shelters. God. I mean, even Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton, they went off and stayed in Europe. You think our celebrities aren't using tax shelters? So yeah, when they're like, we want to raise taxes, those taxes make the welfare system bigger so that people get poorer, and then we have to borrow more on our credit cards. Why else would they have told us trickle-down economics don't work when it's been a year? Not only that, look at the TV reports. In a month, he already had 75 companies coming back in. They clearly work. They clearly work. I just hate to break it to you, but why are you listening to the elite? Why do you believe they're social justice warriors? Just because they say they're Democrats. Have you seen who the Democrats follow? Have you seen this Steve guy? This Steve Elmhurst or whatever? Let me see his name. No, Steve Elmendorf. Have you seen who he represents? Steve Elmendorf is the Democrats' main lobbyist. Nancy Pelosi called him her hero of change. And he represents Monsanto and foreign interests in China. He doesn't represent you. Look him up. So when you sit there and you watch all the Democrats during the State of the Union sit on their hands, and you wonder why they won't clap for black unemployment being down in its lowest since recorded history, that's because they never wanted them to be that empowered. That's not who they represent anymore. The Democrats have been hijacked. They're not representing the people anymore, guys. Right now, we're just left with the Republicans. That's why they're clearing the swamp. Like 35 of them are retiring in the fall. But the rest of them have decided to get behind Trump because they realize that's where the people are going. And I'm like, all right, one party decided to step up. You watch this fall and see. I bet we're going to see candidates who are like, we want to get behind this president. I bet there are going to be people who are inspired to run for political office who never thought they'd run before because they didn't think there was anyone they could stand behind. There are going to be new people running for office this fall that you're finally going to feel like you can support. The political parties don't have the same values they used to. The Democrats don't support like education like they used to. Things have changed. How many people are changing sides all over the place? But it's just a different atmosphere out there. So when you wonder why all the celebrities are like, I need you to fight for this and fight for women's, fight for women, fight for women, fight for women, and you've got to fight for a woman, and then you find out what Hillary freaking Clinton did and what her husband's done to hundreds of women. And they just turn a blind eye to it. And they use the Me Too movement to recruit and say, Me Too movement, we're going to have a big rally. Come to the big rally for the Me Too movement. And then you find out that it's an actual Democratic poll registration drive. That's illegal. That's a lie. That's scary. That's not the Democratic Party I grew up with, is it? Like, it's not. That's not the Democratic Party I knew. I miss having good debates with my friends. Well, I mean, I still have good debates with my friends. But my friends who are Democrats, they're not allowed in the Democratic Party that's in Congress. They're not allowed in the ones that are meant, like Susan Sarandon. Because she went with Bernie Sanders, she got crucified, and then she decided to vote for the Green Party, and that wasn't liberal enough for them. She got crucified for that. And I was like, we have freedom of speech in this country. Like, freedom of speech, we should be allowed to vote. The vote is the most holy and sacred thing in our country. And when a celebrity tells you, kiss my butt for not voting for someone, if you don't vote my way. Yeah. They're saying, protect my Versace suit. I don't want to lose my Prada bags. That's why. Hope I cleared it up for you. They're just not the kind of friends that you want. You can admire them. Just do it on Instagram. Leave the political issues to you, your family, and your real friends. Peace out, guys. Oh, thumbs up if you enjoyed this, and share if you really like this and you know someone who would like to hear this too. I really appreciate it. And thanks so much for supporting this channel. And I'm 100% viewer supported because you know YouTube hates this kind of thing. So feel free to leave a donation if you'd like to down below. And for those of you who have donated in the past, you make my job so much easier. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart. Bless you. Bless you.